Thank you. So it's wonderful to be here. I will begin now by introducing a little about myself. So I am located in Silicon Valley, but I travel all over the world. We have actually strategic partners in over 22 countries. So we do a lot of work all across Europe with European governments, helping their startups grow and go international, bringing a lot of them into the US market. My company also works across Asia, and our biggest partner in Asia is China. So we have an office in Shanghai. We also work across many other Asian countries, and our expertise is really helping startups at an early stage grow, raise capital, and go global. So I am going to share with you today a lot of the deep knowledge that I have gained over the years, working with literally thousands of startups, helping them achieve success. And I will also talk about artificial intelligence. Where is artificial intelligence headed, and how will it change pretty much everything we do? So let me begin by sharing the PowerPoint with you. One moment. Okay, I have the PowerPoint here, and I want to make sure everybody can see it before I begin. Okay, wonderful. So let's begin. So my nickname in Silicon Valley, for those of you who don't know, is Captain Hoffman. Because I am the captain of Founderspace. We have been around since 2011, but before that, I actually was an entrepreneur. I ran 3 venture-funded startups in Silicon Valley, so I know exactly what entrepreneurs are going through, the struggle in both hard times, and how to grow and scale a business. I'm also author of 3 award-winning books, Make Elephants Fly, which is all about your dream. So the elephant is your big idea. It's the thing you want to get off the ground. But how do you make an elephant fly? And it goes deep into innovation. How companies innovate and actually make products that take over the world. My second book, Surviving a Startup, is about the struggles that entrepreneurs have and literally all the experience that I've gained personally from my own startups, as well as from working with thousands of different startups around the world about how to overcome these obstacles. And my third book, The 5 Forces That Change Everything, is about technology. It is about artificial intelligence and how it is poised to literally remake every business on the planet, and other emerging technologies that are now in labs around the world. So gene editing technology, nanotechnology, robotics, brain-computer interfaces. How will these technologies enter the marketplace and change both our economies and our lives? So let's jump in to the main topic, Silicon Valley's AI explosion. Can all of you see the AI explosion screen? I hope so. So we're on the second slide. So now we're going to talk about what's happening in Silicon Valley and how entrepreneurs actually can leverage AI and build great businesses. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, or you're a big corporation, and you are thinking of using AI, what are the key things you need to understand? So the first thing we all know is that AI is exploding. It's a huge business. In fact, Bloomberg predicts it will be $1.3 trillion US dollars. Now that I think, is an underestimate. I think it's going to be much larger than that. We are moving so fast, and innovation is happening so fast, and literally every corporation out there, every major company out there is either deploying AI or has already deployed AI. So this is something that isn't just hype, it's actually underway. The other thing that's really important to know is it's raining money in Silicon Valley. Literally, money is coming so fast. So if you look at some of the top AI startups in Silicon Valley, their valuations are enormous. So look at Databricks. It was actually founded by a Chinese founder, a woman, and she is now the rich young woman in the world, from richest female startup founder in the world. The company is valued at $100 billion. Anthropic, which is funded by Google and Amazon, and is the second, or some say the first, most powerful artificial intelligence in the West, that has raised, that valuation is $183 billion. And then XAI, which is Elon Musk's company, Grok, that has $200 billion valuation. And the king of them all, OpenAI, is valued now at $500 billion. $500 billion. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I remember when Facebook IPO'd. When Facebook IPO'd, the valuation seemed enormous. It seemed astronomical for a company that had only been around a few years. And you know what that valuation was? $10 billion. So we are looking at Facebook IPOing at $10 billion. We have OpenAI at $500 billion, and it hasn't even IPO'd yet. That shows you not just the potential of AI, but also the excitement around AI. And many people ask me, are these companies overvalued? I mean, $800 billion and it hasn't even IPO'd? Is that, how much more growth can there be? Well, that's the question. That's the question everybody is trying to figure out right now. So what we're seeing is there is a battle for AI dominance. There's a battle between US companies, between Meta, Grok, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, all of these companies competing. And between Chinese companies. So China has many strong AI contenders. DeepSeek literally changed the marketplace. When DeepSeek emerged, it was a sea change for artificial intelligence. Now DeepSeek, for those of you who don't know why it was so powerful, DeepSeek actually made some key innovation. So their entire rich ecosystem that provides extended services and value to everybody in it. So building this ecosystem, really, really important. And then the fifth, very important too, is brand recognition. So the people are like, well, why did ChatGPT God? Why is OpenAI in such a good position that it can have a valuation of $500 billion? Well, really, it comes to brand recognition. They were the first one. They had the first mover advantage. They executed extremely. And everybody in the world started using it. They know. They feel comfortable. They understand what ChatGPT is. So any incumbent, any player coming up has to compete against them. So if you look at these 5 key criteria, these criteria, excuse me? I can't hear you. Okay. Okay, good. So everything's okay. Well, I'll continue going. So if you look at these 5 criteria here, they combined make for incredible startups. Now, the question I get asked often is, do you need all 5 of these to be successful? And no, absolutely not. Most companies do not have all of these 5 criteria. They may have 2 that are really strong, or 3, But usually, especially at the beginning, when they're early stage startups, when they're at the very early stage, they usually don't have all 5. They may not have patent intent. They have a problem ecosystem. They have probably no brand recognition. But as you add up, the company becomes higher and higher, and the walls become higher, and they build a very strong moat around their business. And without a moat, in today's world, you will get crushed. Where is a lot of investment dollars going? So a lot of the money in Silicon Valley, especially for stage startups, outside of the big platforms, like the big guys, XAI, OpenAI, all of these companies, a lot of the venture capital is going into what we call vertical AI. That's AI specifically focused on different verticals. So you could be building, as an entrepreneur, you could say, I'm going to build the best AI for the fishing industry. The fishing industry is wide open. They don't have strong AI platforms. Some of the people in the fishing industry, ChatGPT and other basic tools, but can you, as an entrepreneur, step into the fishing industry, figure out what their biggest problems are, what's stopping them from actually moving forward, and you can start to address those with this new, extremely powerful technology. You can take AI and specific data from the fishing industry and start to create a platform for them to actually use AI to actually manage and grow their business. And that is true for every vertical. And this is why there's never, I like to say, entrepreneurs say, how can I compete against the big tech, the Magnificent Seven? How can I compete in a world that's so competitive? And I will tell you, there are more opportunities today than there have ever been, in history. Even companies like Microsoft are scared. The CEO of Microsoft recently said he's scared he can go out of business. He's scared that Microsoft might not be relevant in 10 years. Why? Because AI is so powerful and transformative that some startup could come along, and it just may well be OpenAI, and actually build equivalent of the Microsoft operating system, all with AI. And this is how powerful this broad technology is. AI is so different from previous technologies. Previous technologies, if we looked at them, they were pretty powerful. Blockchain was really, really powerful technology as it emerged and as it's been growing, but it is a narrow technology. The blockchain is really good at certain things, especially cryptocurrency, but it doesn't solve, it can't be used in every sort of situation. It's not a general technology. Same with virtual reality and augmented reality. They're very good for specific areas, but for most things, people do not need these glasses or want to wear them, these headphones, the goggles. They don't want to use them all the time. AI is very different. AI makes every process more intelligent. AI can automate nearly any process, especially with agentic AI. AI can leverage massive amounts of data. AI is unlike all of these other technologies in that it's very broad. It can be applied to almost anything. Almost any business on the planet can benefit by using AI. And so you, as an entrepreneur, have to say, where are there blue waters? Where are there not competitors right now that I can go in and create a lot of value in this industry? It could be the light bulb manufacturing industry. It could be transportation, like trains. How can I add AI to the railroad industry? It could be virtually any industry out there. And if you go deep enough and start to customize applications, usually SaaS applications, for this industry, you can all of a sudden create a lot of value by leveraging this new technology. And then your company can turn into a unicorn, a very profitable business. So let's look at deep tech versus scenario fit and user stickiness. So a lot of entrepreneurs out there, there's two philosophies. One is you have to develop deep technology, really deep technology. And we see right now, when you are developing deep technology, especially in artificial intelligence. You have the cutting edge. Your company can become a unicorn overnight. Literally, you don't even have to launch a product. You just have to be on the cutting edge. Look at like Fei Li. You know, she is a professor at Stanford in robotics. She launched her startup Physical Intelligence, and it's spatial intelligence. Sorry, her startup is spatial intelligence, and because she is so deep into the research, literally she raises huge amounts of capital overnight and becomes a unicorn. The same is happening across the whole AI industry. So the core infrastructure, a lot of the core infrastructure, if you are one of the leading edge thinkers, you are one of the people who truly understands how to innovate in this space, and you can push the boundaries further, you can be very successful. The other one is a scenario fit. So how do you create, using AI, you don't have your own deep technology. You're literally using the API from platforms like ChatGPT or DeepSeek. You're using their API. But how do you create a fit with your customers? How can you add value to your customers today? And this you can achieve very fast growth. So we are seeing companies that are literally coming out of the gate and just growing from 0 ARR to 100 million ARR in less than a year. Look at GenSpark. They made a general purpose AI agent, right? That's it. You know, they're using other APIs from, you know, other platforms like ChatGPT, but their agent, their software was such a good fit for so many people and businesses that their ARR just went boom, to like 100 million in less than a year. Other companies like Replete and Lovable, they are on fire. You know, they allow you, they do the vibe coding, they allow you to literally type in something and create a website with just a prompt. Like, I want a website of you know, that sells pottery, and boom, create just pottery, those few words. These companies are seeing enormous quick growth. Now, this is really good in the marketplace if they can figure out how to build walls around their business. They can grow very fast. The challenge a lot of them have is how do you do those other things I talked about? How do you get proprietary data? How do you create an ecosystem? How do you have a network effect? All these other things they need to start to think about so that they aren't just one of many companies competing in that space. So this is the interplay. We're seeing entrepreneurs take two different approaches. If you have a team that is absolutely on the cutting edge of technology, deep tech is especially in AI, software is a good way to go. In hardware, it's much, much harder, let me tell you. But in software, you can iterate fast and deploy fast. For most other entrepreneurs, they go for a scenario fit. So a lot of people ask me, what is the most important thing you need to do when launching your company? And I tell them, okay, first thing, don't spend a lot of time trying to raise capital. That is not the most important thing. At the beginning, don't spend any time trying to raise capital. Don't even build your product. Don't spend a lot of time on your product and trying to find product market fit. The most important thing you need to do when you launch a company, when you are, when you are just beginning your company, is find the right people. If you spend 80% of your time, instead of trying to build your early prototype or raise capital or network or do all these other things, market research that entrepreneurs do at the beginning, or come up with the best idea. A lot of entrepreneurs waste all these iterations on trying to come up with the best possible idea. Leave all those for later and focus on the people. The people are what's going to make your company successful. Because whatever idea you have at the beginning is probably wrong. You're probably going to figure out that it's actually something else your customer wants. Whatever product you build, if you spend a lot of cycles building a product, you're probably building the wrong product because you don't know in the marketplace. So really, focus on the people. And what you need to have a great team at the beginning? Well, you need people who are incredible at what they do. And you need a team that is well-rounded. So the typical startup team that is very successful that I have seen, not just in Silicon Valley, but around the world, has usually a strong technical team. So whatever you're doing, if it's artificial intelligence, you have a crack technical team. You aren't outsourcing it. There have been cases you can outsource it and be successful, but most of the time, those technical people are part of the founding team. You also need somebody with a really good business sense, who really understands how to execute and implement business. And then the third piece for most early stage startups is somebody who understands the customer. Somebody who can create new design, user experience, innovate in that area. If you get these three people together, that's the magic combination for an early stage software startup, wherever you are in the world. Other thing you need to consider when you start off is don't think of building products. Do not think, oh, could I build this great product? Think more broadly. Think of, can I build a platform? Now, a platform is very different. A platform is something that actually engages your customer and provides them a way to actually give back and create a better product. So great platforms actually allow the customer to participate in the value creation. So I'm always telling entrepreneurs, don't think of just building products. Think of your company as a platform company. If you do this, your chance of success will be far greater, because platforms are what allows a company to achieve greater network effect. It allows companies to build stronger ecosystems. It allows companies to gather more data, and it allows companies to understand their customers better. You cannot create demand. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, a big mistake is, I'm going to build the best product in the world and everybody is going to come to me. Well, this is a myth. It's a myth. You can build the best product in the world. Literally, I've seen entrepreneurs do it. They perfect every pixel on their product. They spend forever, going over and over, iterating on their product, making it better and better and better. But there is no strong need for the product. If there is no strong need for your product, it doesn't matter how good it is, you will die. Let me give you a great example. We've seen Oculus got off to a great start because they developed the first commercial VR headset. And Zuckerberg, very smart guy, acquired Oculus for over $3 billion. Well, he has subsequently poured in billions of dollars into virtual reality. Yet, there hasn't been demand. Customers aren't saying, I need one of these virtual reality headsets. I have to have it. Yes, for a niche group, it's very powerful. For certain things, it's really useful. But broad-based demand never materialized. And it didn't matter how much money Mark Zuckerberg spent on this, he couldn't create it. He couldn't create demand for his VR. He's still trying, right? He hasn't given up. He's still pouring billions into this. But the demand it's been money losing and I'm sure, very frustrating for Meta, which changed its name to Meta because of the potential that he saw for virtual reality. But the fundamental problem was the form factor. People do not want to wear a big bulky headset. Now he's trying the glasses, but still, it's a tough sell because most people, if you don't have to wear glasses, you don't want to wear glasses. So demand is really, really important. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, I'm saying the demand already needs to be in the marketplace. Your job is not to create demand. Your job is to find demand and service that demand. So you are like an oil well wildcat. Your job is, you can't make oil in the ground, right? The oil's either there or it's not. You can drill a hole, and when you drill a hole that's testing the market, if there's a gusher, comes up, that's demand, right? Then you know you have it, and you sink a lot of money into wells in that area. If not, you move on. So this is the mentality you have to have as an entrepreneur. You have to say, my job isn't to create demand, my job is to find demand. Other people will say to me, well, look at ChatGPT. It created a whole new market. That didn't exist before. I was like, yeah, you're right. It created a whole new market, but the demand was there. When you look at what people do with ChatGPT, it's stuff they were already doing. They just makes, the demand was there. Oh, you know, I have to spend all this time writing an article for my blog. I can now, like, literally ask ChatGPT, write me the article. I have to spend all this time creating images. Ooh, few text prompts and images created. The demand was there in other forms. They literally created a product that made it so much easier to do those things. They didn't create a whole new demand that didn't exist. No, ChatGPT is servicing demand in the marketplace in a whole new way using the technology. Don't fall in love. This is what another message I have for entrepreneurs. Like, so many entrepreneurs fall in love. And I'm not talking about don't fall in love with a girlfriend or don't have, fall in love with a wife and spend too much time because you'll never be successful. I'm talking, it's fine to have a girlfriend, it's fine to spend time with your family. I think those are fantastic things. I'm talking, don't fall in love with your product. Your product doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've seen entrepreneurs who are so passionate about their product. They're like, oh my God, this product, and they love it so much that when you give them feedback, they shut down. They don't want to hear it. Because if you're in love, love is blind, right? People can tell you, oh, that person isn't right for you, they're not a good fit, but if you're in love, you just block them out. You don't want to hear it. The same happens with your product. If you love your product too much, you will stop listening to critical feedback. And to really succeed, you actually need to have critical feedback. What I tell entrepreneurs is don't love your product. Don't love it. Love your customer. If you're going to fall in love with your customer and make sure that your customer falls in love with your product. It's your customer who has to love your product, not you. So you have to listen to that customer. What feedback are they giving you? What is the data say? Are they really engaging? Are they really using it? Is it providing value to them? Because if it's not, you need to change or build the product. Otherwise, you have no business. The next advice is if you're doing a pitch deck, like this one, this isn't a pitch deck, this is just my presentation. But if you're doing a pitch deck, keep it simple. So I see so many entrepreneurs who send me pitch decks every day, and they have all this writing, all this detailed writing. Honestly, do you know how long a venture capitalist and angel investor spend going through the average pitch deck? Maybe a couple minutes. A couple minutes at most. They're going ting, 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 slide, slide, slide. You need to make your pitch decks very visual. So when you glance at a slide, you can instantly understand what that slide is telling you with only reading one sentence. Like literally, that's a great pitch deck. Now, maybe, especially when you're pitching in person, like I'm doing right now, you want almost no text. Because I want you focused on my words. I want you focused on me. I don't want you sitting there trying to read and listen at the same time, because the human brain doesn't do that very well. So, but when you send a pitch deck to somebody and they're going to read it, you can have some more description, but try to keep it as concise as possible and make it as visual as possible, and only go over the most important points for the deck. The most important thing that you can do when you send your product, your pitch deck to an investor, is make sure they understand what your product does. Meaning, what does your product do for the customer? What value do you create for the customer? If your pitch deck does this one thing extremely well, you've succeeded. If you don't do this one thing well, your pitch deck will fail, no matter how much other things you have in here. And then, of course, you can add stuff about the team, the market size, your marketing strategy, go-to-market strategy, your technology. All those are good supporting things. But all of them will fail if they don't understand exactly the value your product provides to your customer and why it's unique. That's it. Show your product. So I get entrepreneurs pitching all the time, and a lot of times they'll come to me and they don't bring the product. Like, I had an entrepreneur with a food tech startup, right? Come to me and tell me how incredibly tasty their new, lab-grown food was. I'm like, okay, can I try it? Because if I can't try it, I just have to take your word for it. No, they didn't bring any samples. So I can't try it, so I don't know if what they're telling me is true or not. In the early days, right when Oculus launched, another startup out of USC, also, who knew the founders of Oculus and were working really, literally, on another aspect of VR at the same time, they came to me with their product. And I tried it, and this was the first time I ever tried VR. I was blown away. I told them, they were like, help me with my pitch deck. Help me work my pitch out. I need to present this to investors. I was like, don't worry about your pitch deck. In fact, I don't even want you to show your pitch deck to investors. I want you to go in with this product and do just what you did for me. Have me try the product. Focus on them trying it. They will either get it or they don't. I'm going to interview 3 investors, and I guarantee if you do that, you will get funded. A few weeks later, they'd raised $5 million from one of those 3 startups, from one of those 3 venture capitalists. Literally, show your product. If it's a robot company, if you can, bring the robot in to your pitch. Let them see the robot. Let them play with the robot. These are the things you need to do to be successful. The other thing I tell entrepreneurs is when you're raising capital, don't focus on the money. Don't focus on trying to get them to give you a check. You will be much more successful if you focus on advice. Focus on what you can learn from the investor. First of all, when you are trying to push an investor into giving you money, investors don't like, they pull back. Like, nobody likes a pushy salesperson who's just trying to get their money. They don't like that. They want to understand what you're doing. And what you'll find is if you take the time to stop trying to sell them and start to understand what they think of your product, how they view your product, you will engage. And when people get engaged, when you ask them intelligent questions and they start to say, no, if it were my company, I would change this. I would do that instead of that. You're gaining 2 things. Number 1, you're getting incredibly valuable advice from an experienced investor who's probably run their own business and has seen lots of startups in the space, and they are telling you something you would have to pay an enormous amount of money to learn, but they're giving it to you for free. So number 1, you're learning. Number 2, when people give you advice, they actually tend to like your company more because now they're investing in you emotionally. So you actually have a much higher chance of raising money by not pushing to sell, not just doing your presentation and trying to get them to say yes, but actually engaging them in a 2-way conversation where you're learning and getting their feedback. Push investors off the fence. This is another critical thing for entrepreneurs. Investors, I had this experience myself. I had an investor who literally strung me along. This was my very first time I was trying to raise venture capital for 9 months. 9 months the investor kept saying, I'm going to invest. Oh, I just want to feel more comfortable. I have a few more questions. Oh, I need to see this. I need to see that. I spent 9 months with this investor, and you know what? They never invested. They never, ever invested. I just wasted cycles on this person. Why? Because some people won't invest. In fact, most people won't invest unless you give them a choice, a deadline. This is called pushing them off the fence. Like, I have learned, and I tell entrepreneurs this, when you get if you've pitched an investor, if you've presented it to them and they fully understand the idea, then you have to say, are you ready to invest? And if they are not ready to invest, then you have to literally move on. And a great way to do this is to push for a no. Try to get the investor to say no to your project. Try to get them to say no. You don't want them to say maybe. You don't want them to say maybe in the future. You want them to say yes or no. You don't say yes, you say, well, why can't you invest now? Tell me why. Tell me why. And if you can't invest, I'm moving on. And you get 2 things. 1, you get a clear answer from them. Number 2, you learn something. Why they aren't investing. What's holding them back. Because sometimes they won't tell you. They won't tell you overtly unless you push them into the position. And that can help you learn. Because there may be something about your business that they don't believe in. And maybe you address that, and maybe they converts it into a yes. Or maybe it's not something you want to address, or you can address, but you absorb that information, and then you move to the next investor. Fear and greed. These are the two things that motivated investors. Like when you go into an investor to pitch them, you want to play fear and greed against each other. It's like a scale. You want to make the investor more afraid of losing this incredible deal, this once-in-a-lifetime chance, than they are afraid of losing their money. If they're more afraid of losing their money, they will always hesitate. They'll always, procrastinate. But if they're more afraid of losing the deal, they'll close it. So when you're with investors, and I've had this happen, like literally, I've had investors where I will strategically go into a meeting and I'll tell them, in my early days I learned, I literally went into an investor, I was desperate for money, my company was about to go under, it was really difficult time for me. I'm sitting there in this meeting and I'm talking to them and I don't know if they're going to say yes or no. If they don't say yes, I'm sunk. But what I do is I make them afraid to lose the deal. I don't tell them I'm about to go bankrupt if I don't raise this money, because that just scares investors off. Nobody wants to hear that. What I tell them was, you know what? I'm talking to you now. I'm about to go out to 5 other investors who want to see this product. So I need to know your decision today. I need to know what you think today. Now it did 2 things. One, they're all of a sudden, I'm being honest, because I was like, I had to raise money for this company. So I was going out to a lot of investors. And what it did is it gives them, number one, a reason to say yes. And it gives them a deadline. They have to know that they have to give me their answer or I am going to walk away. At that point, their fear of losing the deal became more than their fear of losing their money, and they literally said, we will give you a term sheet today. So on the first pitch, I got a term sheet, and that saved the company. And any entrepreneur can do this. You can do it. What you have to do is be strategic. You have to line up multiple investors, so you don't go out to investors like trickle one at a time. You line up a bunch of meetings in a short period of time, right? So that you get all these investors, these independent investors, competing against each other. And then you push them, right, to make a decision. Kissing frogs. This is one of my best pieces of advice for fundraising. So how do you, as an entrepreneur, how do you know if an investor is going to invest? Well, let me tell you. It's like kissing frogs. So every investor is a frog, and you want to kiss them and hope they'll turn into your Prince Charming. Literally, Prince Charming, and make all your dreams come off to a castle and give you all the money and wealth you ever wanted. Now, the fact is, the first time you kiss a frog, the first time you meet an investor, the chance of them investing is low. Like, I got lucky with getting that term sheet on the first day. The first time is usually pretty low. The second time you go back, it's much higher. So every time you go back to the investor, you need to literally, every time you go back, you need to say, what do you need to close this deal? What can I give you? So in the very first meeting, you're like, what can I give you to close, that you need to make a decision to say yes? And then, between that time and the second meeting, you prepare everything they need. You go back to the second meeting, and you're like, I gave you everything you said you needed to make this decision. If they don't say yes, you schedule a third meeting. But the third meeting, you say, I want to make sure you have everybody in the room, and you guys are prepared to make a decision. Or I don't want to meet a third time, right? Unless you have everybody in the room. So you get them in a room. The third time, if they cannot make a decision, if you have kissed that frog 3 times, they're never going to turn into a prince. They're just a frog. So my advice is that a chance of somebody closing a deal is very low the first meeting, somewhat higher the second meeting, and it peaks around the third meeting. It literally, especially in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley investors, if they aren't ready to literally give you a term sheet on the third time you meet them, then either you're doing something wrong or they're not interested. One of those two things. And at that point, you should literally, it's just a fraud. No more kisses, you have to move on to your next investor. And if you do this consistently, and I'm giving you a rule of thumb, it can be different. It's different for different types of investors, like for corporate investors, they often take much longer, but I'm talking for typical venture capitalists, and especially for angel investors, this advice is generally true. And after the third time, for them actually giving you money starts to decline exponentially. So it goes up exponentially and then down exponentially. Where do most founders fall short? So most founders, honestly, spend too much time on things that don't matter. A lot of times it's the technology. Because literally most successful startups out there do not have their own technology. In fact, most technologies take decades to commercialize. Even AI, like the early AI companies, they all failed because the technology just wasn't there. Most of them take technology that's been already developed and then they innovate on top of it. So don't spend too much time developing a core technology. First of all, you don't have the money. Most of these technologies need to be developed in research institutions and universities over decades, right? Whether it's the transistor, whether it's AI that has been around since the 1950s, whether it's nanotechnology, whatever it is. Most entrepreneurs are good at actually taking a technology that's new, that has actually been developed and actually provides a lot of value, and then going into the marketplace and engaging with the customer and figuring out how can I adapt this technology to create value for my customer. Keep it secret. A lot of entrepreneurs ask me, they say, should I tell people about my idea? Should I keep it a secret? I'm like, absolutely not. Succeeding in any business is about innovating. And innovating is about gaining information. You cannot gain information if you do not present what you're developing to the customer at the earliest possible time. You don't want to keep it secret. Maybe the customer will tell one of your competitors. But honestly, if you don't tell the customer, you're not going to get that you need to make your product great, and your product will ultimately fail. So the biggest risk of failure is actually not innovating on this innovation cycle, getting the right feedback quickly enough. If you are innovating really fast, you have to push your product out there, get early feedback, use that feedback to improve your product, get that cycle going. That's how you succeed. You do not succeed, you never succeed by just keeping it in a lab separate from everybody else. Crafting your own AI narrative. So when you're out there and you are crafting your AI narrative, you need to think about, in today's world, what is your superpower? What is that one thing? Most companies don't do 1,000 things well, right? They don't even do 3 things well. They do one thing well. What is that one thing you are going to do that is so exceptionally good and powerful that nobody else is doing? And how can your business defend? How can it grow and become the dominant player in this industry? Next, startups with experienced mentors raise 7 times more capital on average and have 3.5 times better user growth. Get mentorship. Don't do this alone. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to have as much high-quality feedback from experienced people with different perspectives as possible. Because you are too deep in your business. You can't see what you can't see. But if you are continually surrounding yourself with very smart people and getting their perspective, you will suddenly see things that you're totally blind to, which can mean the difference between success and failure. When should you quit? Entrepreneurs often ask me, I've been at this 3 years. 3 years, it feels like I'm pushing a boulder up a hill and it's rolling back down on me. I push it up and it rolls back down. It's like Sisyphus. When they come to me and ask me when they should quit, you know what? You should quit today. You should quit right now. Quit your company. Stop it. Stop what you're doing. Because they wouldn't even ask me if they didn't already know the answer. They're asking they know they should quit. They know it's not working. Startups that succeed tend to take off very fast. Literally because there's demand there. You find that product market fit in the demand company. If you are doing this year after year after year and nothing is happening, you already know the answer. You need to move. You either need to pivot or start something fresh. In fact, startups that pivot raise 2.5 times more capital, and they have a 3.6 times better user growth. Pivot means basically you're going one direction, you realize it's not working, you change direction. This is the normal thing for startups. It's not an aberration. It is the norm. Every startup has to be prepared to pivot. Focus on AI agents. Right now, AI agents, and I give huge lectures on this. I actually am working not just with entrepreneurs. I'm working with many of the largest companies in the world, helping them with their agentic strategy. So I am working with PricewaterhouseCoopers, I'm working with Cognizant, I'm working with Intel, I'm working with Alibaba, I'm working with Ralph Lauren, I'm working with all these amazing, amazing companies, Qualcomm, helping them understand how they can take AI agents into their business and transform their business. And the fact is, every company is doing this. Agents literally allow you, or whatever business you're doing, to take processes that people do, to take decisions that people make, and actually have the AI take over these tasks. So there is literally, right now, if you look at every position, every role in every company, in everything where people add value, there will be an agent for that. Look at every place that a human being adds value in a company, almost every place, there will be an agent for that. And those are opportunities for entrepreneurs. One area that's exploding right now is coding, AI coding. So 25% of Google's code today is being written by AI. And at many tech companies, it's much higher. So a lot of startups and other companies, 60% of their code, sometimes 80% of their code is being written initially by AI. Of course, they have humans go over it, but the AI is doing massive amounts of code generation now. 63% of developers are now using AI coding tools. This is so powerful. And companies like Anthropic and Claude are focused on this code. Imagine it. If you're a company, so we just saw with GPT-5, the big thing about GPT-5 was not that it was so much better at doing all the basic stuff, it was that it is much, much, much better now at writing code, their new codex that they released, and it is much cheaper. So you can do a lot of, it uses tokens much better. So the companies now, the big AI companies, are really focused on writing code, because if your AI can write code, you can literally, if your platform can write code, build any app in the world. Like, imagine a company like OpenAI. Once they can write, once their agents can write code, any problem that they have that can be solved through code, the AI can figure out how to write it on its own, without even humans. It's the big step towards artificial general intelligence, when AI becomes as capable as any human being. So, who's making money? Well, a lot of AI startups are making very good revenue. So Cursor, which is a coding tool, they hit 100 million ARR in 2 years. 11 Labs, which does realistic voices with AI, 100 in ARR with just 50 employees. Replete, another coding startup like Lovable that allows you to vibe coding, they went from 10 to 100 million ARR in 6 months. Almost unbelievable. And Lovable, of course, they are just growing like crazy. They're probably beyond this number now. But they went from to 100 million ARR in just 8 months. So another that's really, really exciting is these general purpose AI agents. These agents allow any of you, and any of you can use these. There's Manus, there's Jipu.ai, so Manus is in the US, Jipu.ai is in China, GenSpark is in the US. These companies literally allow talk to your chatbot and have it do complex things. Like it could create a whole podcast for you. You could say, create a podcast for me on cats. It'll literally create a cat podcast for you. You can have it create a slide deck, your PowerPoint deck, your pitch deck. You can have it make phone calls for you. You can have it create spreadsheets. I encourage every entrepreneur, you have to become an AI native. You have to start using these tools. If you aren't using these tools, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or you're a big corporation, like I talk to many top executives and entire, thousands and thousands of employees, I give these lectures, you have to be using these tools literally every single day. You have to look at every process that you do right now and say, how can I use one of the tools to do it better and faster and cheaper? Let me give you a quick case study. We're running out of time, but I'm trying to go quickly. I want to give you GenSpark. So GenSpark is an AI agent company. Now their case study is really interesting. At GenSpark, every employee is a manager. Every employee is in charge of themselves, but they don't manage people. They manage AI agents. Their reports are AI agents. So they want every employee to think like you're managing, but you're not managing human beings. You're managing AI, intelligent AI agents. And every employee at GenSpark are working on what they call a new product. It's actually a feature of their general purpose agent, but it's like a whole product. To create a podcast, to create a spreadsheet, to create something of value for customers. And 80% of the code at GenSpark, according to their CTO, is written by AI. So they are using AI and people. The people are using AI agents to actually write their code. But they also put in place a very thorough code review process where humans are always signing off on everything. Because AI agents still aren't at the point where they can write perfectly bug-free code that integrates with everything. So you need a human to actually make sure it does what it says it's doing. So the results have been, at GenSpark, enormous growth. I won't go through this whole list, but they literally went from 9 days after launch, already had a 10 million ARR. 9 days after launch. And then they just kept rolling out. They rolled out their AI slides creator, 10 days late. They rolled out adaptive personnel. Then they rolled out spreadsheets. They did a launch agent. They went on and on and on. Kept rolling and rolling and rolling. This is the model for Startup Day. Their team is 20 people, 20 human beings, and a lot of AI agents. So they've hired 20 human beings who are super AI native. They use AI for everything. If you want to be a successful startup today, look at this model. Autonomous AI engineers. In addition to coding, we're actually getting these coding platforms. We're also getting products like Cosign and Devin that they say they're creating fully autonomous AI engineers that can be plugged into corporations. So this is kind of the next wave. They're not quite here yet, but they are in development and making really good progress. So once what seemed like a dream, like having an AI engineer you could just delegate tasks to fully and work on their own, it's actually, it's looking like it's going to happen. It is going to be very powerful. I want to see startups in the space, startups that are doing well. One of them is Icon AI. And what they do is they developed an agent that literally will do an entire marketing campaign. From the first, creating all the graphics, pulling, all you have to do is give it, if you sell a product on Amazon, you just give it the URL of your Amazon page. It'll literally pull all the copy, your brand, your images, create ads out of them, launch the ads, then it will iterate on the ads to find out which are performing best. It'll look at your competitors and where they're advertising. It'll copy their ads. It does everything human beings would do, and it's all automated through AI. If you look at Gecko, they, a lot of people spend a lot of cycles trying to find the right employee for their company. And the interviews are very time-consuming. So what Gecko does is it'll literally do the first interview for you. It'll literally contact an employee, set up a web, like a Zoom meeting, and interview the person with AI. And the AI will analyze the prospective, employees' expressions, the tone of their voice, what they're saying, and then Gecko will come back to you and say, this person is worth talking to, or this person isn't the right fit for the job. At Sakana, they actually have developed an AI scientist, a scientist that does research. Now this is the huge next area. OpenAI, Sam Altman just announced that they are huge focus now on taking AI and accelerating virtually all scientific research. So we're going to, Google did AlphaFold, which won the Nobel Prize. but we're going to see a whole new generation of AI agents literally doing research on their own, coming up with their own hypotheses, not even a human being coming up with the hypothesis, and then finding data and testing those out. We are also moving into a world of simulations and embodied AI. So most robots today is not trained with the actual physical robot in the environment. It's trained in a simulation. It's done in software. So robots are being trained how to walk up stairs and how to navigate different environments. Like, what if the stairs are covered in ice? What if they're covered in snow or rain? How do you build a robot that can walk up these stairs without slipping and falling? Well, it's all being done in simulations. And what we're seeing is that the technology is moving so fast, there are going to be unexpected breakthroughs. Breakthroughs that happen that none of us can predict. One of them, I talk to a lot of computer science. A lot of computer scientists are saying propositional logic could be the next big breakthrough. Literally, propositional logic is a new type of logic that is very different from today's LLMs, and it has the potential to speed up GPU training by 1,000 times. Now, it doesn't work yet. It's still, but these technologies are emerging so fast that everything we think we know about the world and artificial intelligence might totally change in the next year. At Toronto University, they are actually developing brain-computer interfaces. This is an EEG interface that you can wear. It's not a brain chip, it's just a cap, but they actually extract images from the human brain. So you can literally be looking at somebody's face, and they can pull that face out of your brain and replicate it digitally. Imagine what this happens. Imagine what happens when companies like Meta, which are now experimenting with this technology, can use an EEG headband to actually read your thoughts. That's one of Mark Zuckerberg's goals. He's working on this right now. Very difficult problem to solve. Has not been solved yet. But if they can solve it, it's going to radically change the world. Google has Genie. Now, Genie is an amazing advancement in AI. Genie can actually learn to create things just by watching videos. So they trained their AI model on 30,000 hours of video games. And now you can go in there and literally talk to it and say, create me a game like this. Like, create me a game like Frogger. Create me a game like Donkey Kong. Like any of these games, these classic games that it has been trained on, you can vibe code and literally have it create it for you. And if it can do this for video games, why Google did this is they don't care about games. It can do it for anything. So we're moving into a future now where at Stanford University, they have literally trained robots to conduct surgery on human beings by watching videos of human surgeons doing the operation. This means a robot can learn in any environment just by watching videos of what people do. And if they can learn by watching videos, it also means they can learn on the job. You can literally have a robot walk into a factory in the future, watch what the employees are doing on the assembly line, learn it, and then take over the job. So, we are entering the year of the humanoid robot. Very exciting time. Millions of companies in China and the US, but a lot in China. China is very well positioned because of the supply chain, are gearing up to build millions of robots. And these robots will become more lifelike. Like, this is a robot designer in Japan. He is perfecting, trying to create robots that look as real and expressive as human beings. So, the robots are coming. They're coming, and they're coming fast. And people ask, are they coming for your job? I have a simple answer to that. If you're an employer, and you can hire a robot, an agentic robot, a robot with agentic AI as its brain, so it can learn, it has goals, it can make decisions, it can reason. If you have a choice of spending 1 year's salary on a human being, or for 1 year's salary, you can hire a robot that does the same thing, which would you hire? The robot will never sleep. It'll work 24 hours a day, much more than 996, 24 hours a day. The robot will never take a break. It will never need a coffee break, never need a rest break. The robot will never complain. The robot will never get sick. The robot will only get better and smarter because you get upgrades. throughout the year, software upgrades, which will improve it. And at the end of the year, you get to keep the robot and keep using it. Who would you hire? It's a no-brainer. Most businesses will be hiring a robot. So we are going to face a crisis as a society. At a certain point, it's not going to happen next year, won't happen the year after next. But if you look 10 years out, 15 years out, robots and agentic AI will be capable of doing almost every job out there. So almost every job. Won't happen right away, but look a decade or more out, a decade or two out, and it's going to happen in our lifetime. This massive transformation is underway, and it will take place. The last slide I have is, can AI be conscious? So I get asked this question all the time. And I will tell you, AI will be conscious. It will be conscious, but in a very different way than human beings. Very different. And this is hopeful for us, because AI can act just as if it's conscious. It will be able to mimic human consciousness so perfectly, we won't be able to tell. Already, if you chat with a really intelligent AI, very hard to tell if you're talking to an AI or a human, if you don't know. Because AI is getting so good, it can pass what we call the Turing test. But in the future, these robots and this AI, you literally, no matter how smart you are, you won't be able to tell if you're just talking to them, not touching them, right? You won't be able to tell if they're human or an AI. Will they be conscious? The answer is it doesn't matter. They will be so good at doing everything we do that it will seem exactly like they are conscious beings. And we won't know. We will not know if they are conscious or not. But what we will know is they will never be conscious like us. Never. Because they do not have biological bodies. They cannot, an AI has no idea what it is to have an experience like a human does. Like if you hold your dog and you love your dog and you're petting your dog, an AI never can understand what we feel, the chemicals in our brain, the hormones, all the different things going on. It can never have that subjective experience. Only humans can. And this means there will be lots of jobs out there that only humans can do. Like there'll be times where we want to know that a human is the person we're talking to. Whether it's a therapist who's actually giving us advice, a school counselor, whether it's a job that requires human understanding, like you're a very high-end designer of user experience, you need a human to understand this, right? At some level, you want a human who understands the world like us, have their input into this. Also sports. Like, we don't want to watch robots play the Olympics. We don't want to watch robots play every soccer game or every football game. We want to watch humans. Human beings pushing their limits. Musicians. Yes, we could create a robot singer who would sing perfectly, but we will pay for and want in the future a human. So many parents around the world will be telling their children in the future, I want you to get a job. So be practical. Don't be an engineer. Don't be an economist. Don't be a scientist. AI can do all those. You should be a rock star. go try to form a band. That's how you'll actually get work. So it's going to be a very, very different future 20 years from now than it is today. But I will conclude there, and we will go and take some time now to answer your questions. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Hall. That was a fantastic keynote. You mentioned the vertical AI and the AI agent, and also the importance of building a high wall for defensibility, right? But many of us feel that across the different industries, the core logic of vertical AI is actually quite similar. So what exactly created a high wall in your will? Is it the data or the workflow integration or the user base or something else?
Yes, so a big high wall is data. If there is data, not just data, but data that you can proprietarily own and it adds value. So some data doesn't add value, right? That large AI models can do that even without the data you have, then it's useless data. It doesn't create a lot of value. But if you can get that data, yes. But the other one that we're seeing is workflows. And let me give you a very specific example. So video, right? Video is something that these AI can do very well. Google has Veo, which is amazing. You know, there are many other video platforms out there from the large models. You know, ChatGPT does video. But a lot of video editors and people working with video, they need specific tools. They need a whole workflow, deep integration, all these features that go beyond just prompting an AI to create video. That is where they add a lot of value. When you go to enterprise, these enterprise functions need applications that are deeply integrated with their business, that understand and give people the tools and the functionality that they need specifically for the type of work they're doing. In all these verticals, that workflow of those tools are where companies, especially startups, can add an enormous amount of value because they're too complex to be rolled into a single chatbot. Let me put it this way. If everything you're doing can be done in a simple interface like a chatbot, it's going to be very hard to compete. Very hard to compete. Because eventually they'll become part of the big platform. So you need to think, what the value I'm providing, does it need something much more complicated than a simple chatbot? If so, can you offer that? If you can as a startup, you probably have a business.
Thank you so much. Just to follow up, so you mentioned the workflow. Can the workflow be patented?
There are elements that you could probably patent in the design, the methodology, the function, you know, the process that it does, but it's very specific. So I tell startups, for most software startups, don't focus on patents. Do not. I've seen too many, if you're doing core research, like fundamental infrastructure, deep research, yeah, you're coming out of Stanford, you're coming out of MIT, and you really have some core innovation, then you should focus on a patent, like chip technology or nanotechnology. Patents are really important. But if you're a software startup, don't worry about patents. You will waste your time. I've seen so many companies waste all this time, they haven't even found a product market fit, and they're worried about patents. No, what matters for most software companies is traction, like meeting a strong customer need with your product, figuring out where other people aren't adding value, creating values, and then building moats around it. You can buy patents later, you can make patents later, you can file patents later. That can come much, much later.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to open the mic to the floor, and please come to the table here so the mic is close to the computer's mic and then Captain can hear. Will you please come to here to ask questions, and if someone else wanted to ask, please let that.
Oh, I see. Thank you. I think you give the very comprehensive and very deep talk about the AI landscape. So appreciate that. And that's very helpful. And also looking into the future about the application of AI. However, one concern, the AI, look at the good side about the AI. They can create so much precious value to the human being. That's a great side. But we also should be considered if some evil to take over the AI, to make it war and all these criminal stuff. How do you avoid that? Even you are not, on purposely, you use the AI, but if the AI at your programming process, you also automatically generate some virus. And how can we avoid that? So I would like to hear, how do you consider the negative side of AI, and how can we, human beings, to avoid all these things happening?
It's a great question. I think a lot because we are at a very critical moment in human history where we have developed a technology so powerful that can do so many amazing things, as we've been talking about today, save lives, create new drugs, potentially eliminate all disease. all these great things. It's also can do very. So AI is getting so powerful with deep fakes, things like that, that hackers can come in and literally, call you up and pretend to be your boss and tell you, transfer this money. And you can see their image, you hear their voice, and transfer it to this bank account. It looks just like your boss, sounds just like your boss. They tell you need to get it done in the next 15 minutes because it's urgent. You do it and all the money's gone. That's going to happen a lot. There also, AI is becoming so powerful now that governments can use it for surveillance, governments can use it for control, terrorist groups can use artificial intelligence now to hack into systems, to actually weapons of mass destruction. So many dangerous potentials for AI. And AI is open source, so a lot of this technology is just out there for anybody to use. Bad actors can literally use this. And then, how do we defend against this? Well, the answer is, the only defense we have is to use AI itself, right? We have to use AI responsibly, defend against bad actors using it. The problem is, what if those bad actors are a rogue government? How can you control them, right? When they have this extremely powerful technology and are willing to do anything with it. And also, as we approach smarter and smarter and smarter AI and reach super intelligence, where AI is literally smarter than any human being, and we're going to get there. We will get to the point where AI will literally be able to be smarter, not just in a specific area, like it's already smarter in a lot of specific things, but smarter across almost everything. How can we prevent that AI from literally taking control and doing things we do not want it to do, that aren't in human interest? And the answer is we don't know. The answer is we don't know. The hardest computer scientists in the world that I've talked to do not know how to solve these problems yet. So what we need to be doing now, responsible people, responsible governments, need to be focusing far more resources than we are on figuring out how to address this exact question. How do we make sure AI serves the public good? Because honestly, if AI isn't here to help us, why are we building it, right? If the dangers far outweigh the benefits, why are we building it? We need to put far more time and resources now into figuring out how do we create safe AI? How do we create AI that aligns with human value? How do we create AI that is compassionate towards people, human beings, so it doesn't just decide it doesn't need us anymore and wipe us out? How do we keep AI, especially in the military, under control as we give it control of drones, fighter jets, missiles? This is very dangerous stuff. What safeguards do we need to put in place? And there's no simple answer. There's no magic pill. It's going to be a process that will be developed over time, but in order to achieve it, right now we're racing. We're in this AI arms race. We're literally, the big countries in the world, especially China and the US, are moving as fast as we can to achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence, and super intelligence, because it's kind of a winner-take-all game. But in doing this, we're exposing ourselves to enormous risk, right? Because we may find the biggest risk is not each other, not of two superpowers competing with each other. The biggest risk is the technology itself, which is a far greater existential risk than each other. So at a certain point, we need to start talking about how we cooperate. How do we come together and actually make AI safe for our children, for the future of the world? And not just how do we have the most powerful AI. Okay, thank you. I'm going to show you my information again so that you can contact me if you want. If you want to reach out, LinkedIn or email me@founderspace.com is really a great way to get in touch with me. So let me show you this right now on...
Steve, we still have 2 more questions. Are you able to take it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm going to share my screen because I know some people might want to reach out and I went through this too fast. So can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see it. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Stephen. It's a very good presentation. I appreciate that. Time is flying. Last time we talked, probably 6 plus years ago, about the blockchain. Now topic switched to AI. You did a very good job on the presentation. I just want to ask you a question out of technology, because remember we talked a few times back years in China. And you are focused on AI and also working closely with the US companies and also Chinese companies. Just wondering how you are going to balance out with those two countries with this sensitive technology, how you manage that?
Question. And this is something I have been very careful about. So I am very careful not to break any US law or any Chinese law. And I have had to navigate really carefully. So because of the political situation, most US venture capital firms have had to pull out of China. Like, literally the US government does not want them investing in China, so most of them have had to pull out. I have curtailed I can't directly invest in China. So I don't do venture capital there because I don't want to break the law. What I do when I cooperate between the countries is there's a lot of areas where we need to cooperate. We absolutely have to cooperate. Like, let's look at the future. China, no matter what the US wants to do, China has the entire supply chain for building robots. Right? The U.S. can't match that. It would take 2 decades to get the supply chain, all of them to build these sophisticated robots and set up in the U.S. And even by then, those are low-paying jobs. Even China's having trouble, with the wages when it's competing against Bangladesh and Indonesia and places like that. It's not practical. What we need to think about in the U.S. is the future. Like, how do we invest in the latest cutting-edge technologies, because that is where we create the most value in a mature system. Even China has to do that. Like, China's maturing, wages have gone up, China has to do that. But there are many areas where we're not going to be able to compete anytime soon, or if ever, on those products. Probably not. We're only going to compete really on the next generation of technology. So we need to figure out how to better cooperate, and that's an area I'm dedicated to doing. So I'm helping businesses that want to bridge that gap and actually make it a win-win situation where we create good business, whether it's a US company that wants to move into China or Chinese company that wants to move into the US. I do a lot of that. I also, in China, I do a lot of education because, all education I think should be universal. All of us should be learning. So I do a lot of education. And then the third thing I do a lot of in China is I work with big multinationals. So I've been working with large companies like Volkswagen. I just did a work with Volkswagen where I went in with their senior management of Volkswagen China and helped them on innovation. Like, how do they innovate? How do they use AI and all these latest technology to actually be more competitive? Because as we know, Volkswagen's market share, they used to have 60% of the Chinese market. Now it's down around 25%. Like, dramatic fall. They are not innovating at the speed, so they need to figure this out or they won't have any market at all. And then I'm working with other large corporations that want to do business both ways, between China and the US. So this is where I've done my focus, and it's worked out really well. So I think now more than ever, especially with all the misinformation out there, all the fear, we need people who are bridging the gap. People who understand business on both sides, understand perspective of both sides, and I've spent a lot of time in China, so I really understand Chinese perspectives. I have partners there who are on the ground, in Shanghai, who work with me, and this, I think, area, we need to do more of. We need to do more of figuring out how these two superpowers in the world cooperate and make a richer world for all of us, because I don't believe it's a win-lose situation. I don't believe we gain anything. I think even Donald Trump today understands that the US needs China. Like, he is trying to negotiate a deal with China because he knows if just taking the hard line, I win, you lose approach isn't going to get us anywhere. It's going to hurt the US economy, it's going to hurt the Chinese economy. What we want to do is raise both economies. Like, in this world, the more we cooperate, the more we figure out how to mutually benefit each other, the less chance of us having a real conflict, like a violent conflict, because we're more integrated, we're more dependent. I want to see a world where we're creating more win-win situations, integrating more closely, rather than when we're separating, and then it can get more hostile. So that's my concern.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for your presentation. My name is Yana Zhang. I've been leading AI in my department at the World Bank. We just started to build an AI agent for customer services. The biggest challenge does not lie in the technology itself and the integration of systems, but rather on how to train the AI agent to be able to connect the dots and prompt the right customer's requirements. Do you have any advice on that? Thank you.
Yes. So, training an AI agent is not always simple. So, when you train an AI agent, you need to understand exactly, so this is what I tell people. So, if you want to figure out where to deploy agents, there's some areas where agents can add a lot of value, and there's other areas where it requires a lot of work and time, and the ROI is not there. It just isn't there, right? So a lot of companies, actually the biggest mistake they make is focusing on applying AI technology to areas where it's not going to actually give them a big result. They think it will, because they're under the misconception, oh, AI does this well, so we should figure out how to use it in our business. That's not the right approach. The right approach, we need this done, but we don't know if AI can do it, so we're going to try to figure out how to get AI to do it, you can waste a lot of cycles on that. What I tell senior managers and companies that I work with is a much better strategy, is look at the processes that your employees spend a lot of time on, a lot of effort on, and that create a lot of value today, right? Look at those, identify, okay, people are spending a lot of time doing this, and it's creating a lot of value. Then you look at what are AI capabilities? What does AI do very well? And you find the overlap. Where does AI perform really well at doing tasks that our people are spending a lot of time on, that's creating a lot of value? And then you focus exactly on those things. So it's really, a lot of times you'll pick the wrong problem. So you'll spend a lot of time trying to train AI agents at something they're not good at, or you'll spend a lot of time training an AI agent to do something that doesn't really need to be done in your business. It isn't going to change a lot. So it's really, companies often just pick the wrong thing. And that's why many of these trials don't work. The other big thing is, people, like organizations. A lot of times these trials are too narrow, they're too siloed, they don't have a process for rolling it out across the entire organization. There's a lot of bureaucracy in a company. So dealing with that, how to actually enable people to experiment within a company, try lots of different things with AI, and then when they're figuring them out, you could roll them out. This is what I tell, one of the pieces of advice I really think is important, is instead of building your own AI agents to do specific things at first, there's a huge amount of untapped value in tools that are already out there, that you're not even using, because people just don't know about them. Like many people don't fully use Google's Notebook LM. They don't really understand the capabilities. Yet across the entire organization, that could create like 100x more value, and you don't have to build anything or train anything than building like an agent to do something. So actually, one of the things I want companies to do is every every single week, you tell your team members, whether you're a manager of a small group or a very large group, you tell your team members in every group in the company, every week, I want people to be experimenting with new tools. And I want you to come back and we'll dedicate like two hours to this every Friday, right? 2 or 3 hours, where you share how you are actually using these tools to improve your workflow, what you do to make yourself more productive. You share them with your colleagues. And the people who come up with the best suggestions get rewarded. They get some reward, a status reward, maybe a good mark for their next promotion, maybe they get a bonus, maybe they get a meal or whatever you want to do for them. But you make it a system where people are competing to actually share their knowledge within your company, and where you get every employee experimenting, not with building new agents, because that's a big project, just with using like ChatGPT, using those general AI agents, like GenSpark that I told you about, using all these different tools that are out there, agentic tools, you make them more, you accelerate the process for making these more readily available. Like you make it much easier for an employee who discovers a tool to actually use it. They don't have to secretly use it because it's not given permission, to get permission to use it very quickly in a small way, and then you test it out, and if it works, you make it very quick for them to get permission to spread that knowledge across the company. If you do this, you'll get like much faster gains than almost any other way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for all your answers. Thank you again for your wonderful talks. I think your book entitled